During a fiery Senate Appropriations subcommittee hearing, Senator Murphy exposed the shocking plan to spend upwards of $1 billion taxpayer dollars retrofitting a luxury Boeing 747 gifted by the government of Qatar. The true scandal exploded when Murphy revealed that after millions are poured into upgrading this foreign aircraft, the plane is scheduled to be handed over directly to Donald Trump for his personal presidential library. In a fierce, uninterrupted sequence, Murphy took apart the Pentagon's double standards, clashing directly with Hegseth over using massive public funds for personal gifts while using the National Guard as a political tool. Let's look at the exact moment this high-stakes oversight hearing descended into a pure accountability trap.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here today. I wanted to build on some of the questions that Senator Schatz was asking, just to try to build a fact predicate for some of the tough spending decisions we're going to have to make here. Just to confirm, I heard you say with respect to the gift of the plane from Qatar that we do not yet have a signed MOU with the government of Qatar. Is that right?
Correct. We're in the process of working through that.
And did you also say we don't have a signed contract with the company that is going to do the work? Or did you say that we have a contract, you're just not willing to disclose the terms?
The terms should not be disclosed of anything related to an aircraft of this type.
So in 2018, when the contract was signed with Boeing to do the upgrades or the new contracts for Air Force One, the terms of that contract were disclosed. They were made public. In fact, it was the Trump administration that issued a press release giving the total as $3.9 billion. Are you saying this time around, even after you sign the contract, you're not going to make public any of the terms of the contract?
I wasn't involved in that previous administration decision, but we're happy to take a look.
The Air Force testified before the House that that contract would likely deliver the new Air Force Ones by the 2028 timeframe. It doesn't stand to reason that you will be able to retrofit the plane from Qatar much sooner than 2028. So I'm trying to understand what the gap is that we're trying to fill. If this contract ends up being $500 million and the gap only ends up being 6 months, that doesn't sound like a wise investment for this committee to make.
Senator, I would defer to the expertise of the Air Force as far as timing of modifications and when that would happen, but there's also been delay after delay after delay on the Boeing side, so I don't know that's a firm fixed date yet, unfortunately, can be counted on.
So obviously the underlying question here is what is going to happen to the plane at the end of Trump's presidency. The president said on May 12th that this plane would be transferred to his presidential library at the end of his term. Is that your understanding of what is going to happen to this plane?
The president said that. That's my understanding, although I would look at what comes out in the MOU.
But why would we ask the American taxpayer to spend upwards of $1 billion on a plane that would then only be used for a handful of months and then transferred directly to the president? That doesn't sound like a wise use of taxpayer dollars.
A lot of the capabilities, as you know, Senator, of that particular platform are and should remain classified. So there are reasons why you might modify, even for a short period of time, an aircraft to ensure the safety and security of the President of the United States.
But when do you believe that those upgrades would be made? How long would the president have it before it got transferred to his personal possession?
That would be a determination of the Air Force that would take hold of it and make those modifications within whatever time window they believe gets it to the place where it need to be.
Yeah, I think this is extraordinary, Mr. Chairman. We're talking about a pretty massive investment of appropriations dollars into a plane that the Secretary is saying is currently planned to be transferred personally to the President. There's a lot of other pending needs that we need to fund. This would seem to be low on the list. Mr. Secretary, one final question. Obviously, you know that there is a concern in the public about a double standard that is applied to protest, sometimes protest that turns violent. The president, when he came into office, issued pardons to the individuals that attacked the United States Capitol, including those individuals who beat savagely police officers. You have deployed the National Guard and readied Marines in a way that many people think is unnecessary given the state and the local resources. So maybe let me ask the question this way so that you can assuage people's concerns that there is a double standard. The National Guard was deployed here on January 6th, and that was a decision made by the Department of Defense. Do you support that decision? Do you believe that that was the right decision to deploy the National Guard to defend the Capitol on January 6th?
All I know is it's the right decision to be deploying the National Guard in Los Angeles to defend ICE agents who deserve to be defended in the execution of their jobs.
But I think it's important to know whether you think it was also important to have the National Guard defending the United States Capitol when there were violent protesters here on the president's behalf, to make sure that folks know that you care about protest, whether it's against the president or on behalf of the president.
Senator, I was in the Washington, D.C. National Guard when that happened and was initially ordered to go guard the inauguration of Joe Biden. But because of the politicization of the Biden administration, my orders were revoked. And ultimately, because of the politics that were being played inside the Defense Department by the previous administration.
But do you support the decision made on January 6th to send the National Guard here to defend
I
the
support
Capitol?
the decision that President Trump made and requesting the National Guard that was denied.
So you do not.
President Trump
you do not support the decision.
Support
you do not
for the National Guard
decision to send the National Guard here to defend the Capitol. I think that speaks to the worry that many Americans have that there is a double standard, that you are not willing to defend against attacks made on our democracy by supporters of the president, but you are willing to deploy the National Guard to protect against protesters who are criticizing the president. That's not how our taxpayer dollars are supposed to work. They're supposed to be used to defend the United States, no matter the nature of the political affiliation of the protesters. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The confrontation ignited instantly when Senator Murphy forced the Defense Secretary to admit that the United States does not even have a signed memorandum of understanding with the government of Qatar regarding the luxury aircraft. Hegseth attempted a broad deflection, claiming the operational contract details were highly sensitive and could not be disclosed in a public setting. Murphy immediately sprung his trap, noting that during the previous administration's Boeing contract in 2018, the official terms were made completely public via an official press release totaling $3.9 billion. Murphy demanded to know why this new foreign deal was being kept completely in the dark. The tension escalated rapidly when Murphy brought out the Air Force's own timeline data, proving that the official new Air Force One models are already scheduled for delivery by 2028. Because a massive retrofit on the Qatari jet would take years, Murphy exposed that taxpayers are being asked to fund a stopgap aircraft that will only be used for a handful of months before being handed over personally to the president's private library. Hegseth tried to hide behind classified security metrics, but Murphy cut through the excuse, calling the entire operation an extraordinary misallocation of public funds when so many critical military needs remained completely unfunded. The hearing reached an absolute climax when Murphy pivoted away from the luxury jet to expose a deeper institutional double standard inside the Department of Defense. Murphy directly confronted Hegseth over the administration's decision to issue pardons to individuals who violently attacked the U.S. Capitol on January 6, while simultaneously deploying the National Guard to protect enforcement agents against civilian protesters in Los Angeles. Murphy cornered the secretary with a brutal, direct question, asking if Hegseth supported the original military decision to deploy the National Guard to defend the Capitol against violent rioters. Hegseth completely dodged the question, shifting the focus to current border enforcement operations. When Murphy pushed harder, demanding to know if the secretary believed defending the Capitol from domestic threats was necessary, Hegseth launched into a personal grievance, claiming his own historical National Guard orders were revoked due to political bias inside the military. Murphy refused to let the evasion stand, cutting through the crosstalk to deliver a devastating final assessment. He noted that the secretary was fully willing to deploy the National Guard against regular citizens criticizing the president, but completely unwilling to defend American democracy from a direct, violent attack. proving to the public that taxpayer dollars are being heavily weaponized as a political shield. Senator Chris Murphy delivered an absolute masterclass in congressional oversight, directly exposing how foreign gifts, billion-dollar taxpayer tabs, and the deployment of military resources are being handled behind closed doors. When a lawmaker completely strips away the cover of national security to show exactly where public money is flowing, it forces a massive conversation about institutional integrity and executive overreach. What do you think about Chris Murphy completely trapping the Defense Secretary over this Qatari luxury jet? Do you believe Murphy successfully exposed a massive misuse of federal funds and a glaring military double standard? Or do you think the Pentagon's focus on stopgap presidential security is a valid priority? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. This fight over government accountability is massive, and your perspective matters. Help us keep pushing past algorithmic suppression and platform filters by hitting that like button and sharing this video across your networks. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our breaking coverage of these explosive Capitol Hill showdowns. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.